I mean, we all respect that. I feel like a lot of people see you as the mayor, but they don't really know what you went through before that. So
there's a saying in Miami and in other parts of the country too. They see the glory, but they don't know the real story.
that's
Everybody sees, whatever they want to see, and they don't realize the hustle that goes into it, the grind that goes into it. And it's sad because, we live in a world, and I'm glad that we do these podcasts because it gives me an opportunity to talk for an extended period of time about what I'm passionate about, my city, my career, my past, and hopefully demystify some things for people who maybe don't know me or whatever, or who are shaped in the way they think about me by other people who are trying to brand me in a certain way because it benefits them or the ideology or whoever's paying them to do it. And we live in a world that's messed up in that sense, you know what I mean? And I think that's one of the problems in politics.
All right, so today on the Miami Hustle, we are honored to have Mayor Francis Suarez on the podcast.
I used to have one of those buttons. It's called the easy button.
Oh, yeah. This is like a hype button.
And then I had one that was like a bad word.
Oh, okay. Well, for the ones that have been watching and supporting, I just want to thank everyone. This is the 100th episode of the Miami Hustle podcast, so let's cheers with a little cafecito.
Cheers, brother. Happy 100th episode, man. It's a big deal.
Thank you.
Oh, perfect.
Really
Good way to
appreciate your
start.
time. Yeah, now we're ready. So I really appreciate your time. The Miami Hustle podcast is basically about people that are following their passion in the city of Miami. It's full of hustlers, and that's what a hustler is to me, someone that follows their passion.
Yeah.
You, for sure, have been following your passion, and I want to thank you for your time, and then thank you for everything you've done in the city of Miami.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, anytime. So how are you feeling?
I feel great, especially after this coffee. No, I really appreciate being here at Brawler Box. It's an incredible gym with a great energy. I've been here several times in the Little Haiti area, and I love working out. I'm a gym rat. I love to be in the gym. I actually work out at home. I have my own gym at home. But you get a sense of the energy of a place when you come into it, and I think Brawler has such a great energy, from the murals to the sayings to the 80s paraphernalia. It reminds you of what it was like growing up in Miami. I'm the first Miami-born mayor, so
nice.
This just reminds me of my childhood, and it's a place you want to be in.
Yeah, shout out to Brawler's Box. We're here. They provided the space, and I agree with everything he said. I love coming here. I have a membership here. And this place, it makes you really feel like home, and everyone that works here as well. So shout out to the team, and thank you for letting us do this podcast here. And shout out to you for being the only Miami-born mayor.
Isn't that great?
That's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, most people don't realize that, 70% of people that live in Miami were not born here, including my dad, who was the first Cuban-born mayor of Miami. So in the whole history of Miami, which started in 1896, nobody had actually been from Miami and actually been the mayor of Miami. So to me, it's a huge honor. I think it says something about the city that we are now producing the talent that is leading it. I like to think it says something about me because I love the city and I care deeply about the city. And I think the fact that I was born here gives me a unique perspective on the city.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I feel like this city is pretty much made from immigrants that came from other places that they didn't have as much opportunity. So again, we're full of hustlers, and whenever we're here, we do everything that we can to make our dreams come true.
Amen.
And shout out to you for following the legacy. And I want to ask you, when you were growing up, did you ever think that you would become a mayor? Like, was that in your plans at all?
No, at all. I did not. I was a pretty rambunctious child. Rebellious is probably another good word to use. When my dad got elected, I was 8 years old. When he left the mayoralty, I was 16. It was a very, very fragile time in my life. And I honestly felt, that at that time I grew up as the mayor's son, right? And so I was kind of like very constrictive at the time, And I saw like a lot of things that he went through in his career that I didn't think were fair in terms of criticism and people that attacked him. And I honestly got a distaste for politics when I was young. I thought it was fundamentally, it could be very unfair. And then I got married, I bought a house, started becoming a citizen of this community, started a business, small business like this. And I realized that I owed a debt to the city that gave me all of these opportunities. And as I got older, now going from the 20s to like my late, 20s to early 30s, I started to feel a sense of obligation. And an opportunity arose, which is in the area that I lived. The guy who was the commissioner decided to run for mayor, and there was a vacancy. I didn't have kids at the time. Like I said, I was a small business owner. And I thought to myself, if I'm ever going to give back to the city that has given me so many opportunities, now's a good time. I talked it over with my business partner at the time. He was 100% on board. He's actually my cousin. We had a business together for over 10 years. And we did it. I mean, it was a very, very hard-fought campaign. I ended up winning by 260 votes.
Wow.
So I always joke that if 131 people would have changed their mind, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. So it just goes to show how hard work, following your passion, something that's very part of the hustle culture, that is what ultimately will make the difference, right? If you're passionate about something, you're gonna go the extra mile. If you go the extra mile, you never know when that extra mile is what determines the outcome.
And what business did you start that you were doing for 10 years prior?
So I was a lawyer. I graduated from law school in 2004. And I worked at a law firm, and then I decided I wanted to start my own title company. So I started a title company doing real estate closings, and I did that for like 11 years, and it was great. It allowed me to buy my first house. It gave me a lot of flexibility to run for office. It allowed me to, begin the process of starting my family. And so it was wonderful to be a small business owner and understand what that world was like. And then ultimately I ended up going into the big law firm world after the fact.
That's amazing. I mean, we all respect that. I feel like a lot of people see you as the mayor, but they don't really know what you went through before that. So
there's a saying in Miami and in other parts of the country too. They see the glory, but they don't know the real story.
That's
everybody sees, whatever they want to see, and they don't realize the hustle that goes into it, the grind that goes into it. And it's sad because, we live in a world, and I'm glad that we do these podcasts because it gives me an opportunity to talk for an extended period of time about what I'm passionate about, my city, my career, my past, and hopefully demystify some things for people who maybe don't know me or whatever, or who are shaped in the way they think about me by other people who are trying to brand me in a certain way because it benefits them or the ideology or whoever's paying them to do it. And we live in a world that's messed up in that sense, you know what I mean? And I think that's one of the problems in politics. But despite that, it's an incredible opportunity to lead in a place where you're passionate. It's an incredible opportunity to run a large corporation. When I got there at 32, I was running a $600 million business with 3,500 employees. Today, it's $1.5 billion business with 5,000 employees and 4 labor unions. So it's very sophisticated stuff. We took it from bankruptcy when I got it to having the lowest tax rate ever, the highest reserves ever, meaning the most cash in the savings account, the highest bond rating, meaning the best credit rating. So when you do your FICO score, we're like 800, right?
Yeah.
And then we have the lowest unemployment in America, highest median wage growth in America, and we have the lowest homeless rate in 11 years. So those are just great statistics that I constantly share to explain to people how well we're doing. Are there people that criticize what we do, what I do, what decisions we make? Of course. It's nonstop, right? Everybody wants to second guess. A lot of people want to play Monday morning quarterback. Like I said, a lot of people are doing it in what I call bad faith, meaning that they're either lying or not telling the full truth about things or distorting the truth, or they are getting paid to lie. And that happens, unfortunately, every day. And unfortunately, some members of our community buy into that. So part of the reason why I do these podcasts is not just because I love the podcast itself, which I do in this case, right? And I love the people who are promoting the podcast, but it's an opportunity for me to tell my story, my side of the story. And it's an opportunity for me to share with the audience who I am, and hopefully they'll connect with that person.
Yeah, no, I agree, and thank you for your time again, because I think it's really important that long form podcasts nowadays, we really get to know who the person is.
For sure.
So
you can't hide.
Yeah, exactly. And you're a man of the people, clearly. You're here with us and you're just telling your story. And I want to thank you once again for everything you've done for the city, because in the 8 years that you've been mayor, you had to go through a lot of tough times, including COVID.
Yeah.
That's something that you or none of us really had planned. And I think that in the city of Miami, we handled it very well, again, thanks to our leaders. I feel like Miami, you're not only a mayor of a big city, but you're a mayor of one of the best cities in America. It's always been New York, LA, and Miami. No offense to anyone else out there, but New York, LA, kind of a shit show. Miami is thriving. And like you said, the crime is going down. I think it's at like 40% down when it comes to homicides as well. So thank you for all of that. And homelessness, can you talk about how you've been able to uplift this city while it seems like the world, like shit is hitting the fan?
Yeah, so I think for us, we had a strategy, right? And our strategy was actually really simple. I said, I want to do three things, and I want to do three things well. I want to keep taxes low, I want to keep people safe, and I want to lean into innovation. So we reduced taxes to the lowest level ever, and we saw unprecedented growth. So we grew 150% in the last 10 years. You know, I think a mayor's job is to create the best city possible. That's what their job is. And when you do that, there's going to be demand. There's going to be people that want to come into your city. With the resources that we acquired from that growth, I said, I want to keep people safe. So when I started my mayoralty, the homicide rate was somewhere in the 80s. The worst ever was in 1980, it was 220.
Wow.
And the first year we started recording homicides, which was in 1946, it was 32. And I'm just giving you all these sort of like, you know, points on the scale, right? The best year we ever had was 24. So you see 32 the first year, 220 the worst year, and 80 something when I first started, and 24 was the best year. Last year we had 27, which is 90% below our worst year. And like you said, it's actually over 50% below when I started, right? You know, what did we do? We never got into the defund police movement. We always supported our law enforcement. We never got into the no cash bail. If you commit a crime, you have to pay the consequences for it. You know, and then I did some things at the leadership level that I think are important. When I first got elected, I didn't do this for the press. I never got any press for this. Anytime there was a homicide in my city, exactly where it happened, exactly 24 hours after it happened, I ran a 5K that began and ended at that spot. So let's say, for example, if there was a homicide at Saturday at 2 o'clock in the morning in a tough neighborhood, Sunday at 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't care if I have to go to work on Monday, I don't care if my kids have to go to school on Monday, I would run at Sunday at 2 a.m. a 5K beginning and ending in that neighborhood, in that very spot. And what happened is, it created a culture. You know, my police chief ended up showing up. The high level police staff would come because they didn't want the mayor out there by himself, right? And it created a culture that what just occurred is not acceptable. It's not normal. We're not gonna accept it. We're not gonna normalize it. If the mayor were standing in that very spot just 24 hours to a second before, he would be dead. So let's understand what happened here, right? Yeah. And so we started creating that culture. And I think that culture with technology that we invested in, ShotSpotter, have a gunfire detection system. We have ballistics that we never had before. So we invested in policing technology, try to give our officers the best tools available to solve crimes. We also pay our officers well. You know, we have labor peace with our officers, and that's something I'm proud of, you know? Yeah. Everybody gets motivated to work in part on what you get, right? Like on how you get paid. Like that's economics 101, right?
Yeah, I didn't know about that. So big respect to you for doing that. That's amazing. And it really puts it into perspective. Like you're not just seeing what happened and how many homicides are happening and then you're just kind of like going on with your day. You're showing up and you're running, putting in those miles so you physically see and physically know what's going on in your city. Yeah, and imagine if you're someone from that neighborhood where it happened, you're traumatized. Right? Somebody just got killed in your neighborhood at a late time. If the next day the mayor shows up, you're like, wow, he cares. Yeah. He's actually here. You know what I mean? The mayors don't come into these neighborhoods, or mayors don't, show up here when these things happen. So I think that was a really important message, not just to my police officers, but to my community, that I was willing to go that extra mile, to send a message. Yeah, and everything that you've been doing clearly has been working, because not only are the rates down, but it's down in a time where the city's being flooded by new people. Yeah. And a lot of times that could be dangerous. When a lot of people from New York or from any other city are migrating here and we're getting a whole bunch of new faces, new people, the crime rate usually goes up in any other city.
Yeah, like when you think about the population in 1980 or the population in 1946, I mean, we beat the 1946 number, right? Like how many people do you think lived in Miami in 1946 compared to 2025? Right, or 2024, because it was last year's number. And I think the last thing we did was we leaned into innovation. I realized, my phone, everybody here, I guarantee you one thing that all your viewers have in common is they all have something like this, a phone, right? So we understood that our economy was changing, right? Like look, these podcasts, right? Like this is a new world, right? Where now you don't have to be a network guy, you don't have to have gone to school. Maybe you did for communications or I don't know.
I didn't.
No, me neither. So you don't have to be a professional communicator, a journalist to have a voice, to have a platform, right? It's a new world. So we realized that digital world was coming and we positioned ourselves to take advantage of it. So we grew our venture capital pipeline by 500%. We had one year that we grew crypto investments in the city by 2,000%. We moved companies here that manage $12 trillion in assets, right? So, again, the people that hate on some of the stuff that we've done and some of the stuff that I've done specifically in promoting the city will say, oh, well, the city's gotten very expensive. Yes, the city has gotten expensive. I can't sit here and tell you that it hasn't, right? And it was not my intention to say, oh, I want to make the city more expensive. No, I want to make the city attractive, right? For everyone who lives here and for those who may want to live here, right? I can't control the fact that New York is about to elect a socialist. That's going to have consequences on Miami. I can't control the fact that there's a socialist president in Colombia or one in Brazil, but that has implications for Miami.
Yeah.
So all I can do, and I'm not going to increase the crime rate or the tax rate or make us less innovative just to keep prices down. I'm not going to do that. That's not my job. My job is to, so do we try to build affordable housing? Yes, I've probably built in my 16 years more affordable housing than any elected official in the history of Miami in my time. Okay, so yes, we try to do it. Can we do more? Of course we can do more. And we should do more, right? And we should always push ourselves. And I think part of the hustle mentality is never being satisfied. I don't sit here and say, oh, mission accomplished. No, we're gonna do more. And today, my first meeting of the day today was a meeting of a charter school in downtown that we wanna convert into a charter school that's bigger, like 3 times bigger.
Okay.
And then have mixed income, and have affordable and workforce housing in the project with no subsidy. So again, we're always trying to do that, as much as we can.
Do you want to shout out the school's name, or?
What's that?
Do you want to shout out the school's name? Because I think I may know which school you're talking about.
I don't actually know the name of the school.
Okay.
To be honest with you, it's in downtown and it's.
Is it Slam?
It's not Slam.
Okay.
It's not Slam. Well, I love those guys, by the way. Academic guys.
They've done great things too.
They're great guys, and they're actually working on a project with us in the Guzman Center.
That's the one I thought you were talking about.
Yeah, no, but that's not it. This is a different one. So this is a different one,
yeah,
right?
sure.
Like that one, they're thinking of doing, some partnership with Miami-Dade College, and and if it happens, hopefully it does. We're going to have an opportunity to have 2 great institutions, stewarding our asset that needs a huge infusion of capital and it needs expertise in terms of how it's run.
And how have you been able to handle the homelessness?
So that's another great question. I mean, first of all, we've dedicated more resources than ever.
Because again, I just want to shout out that you guys have been doing a great job in that, and it's not easy because of how many people are coming in and how overpopulated it seems to be getting.
And I'll tell you, the people that hate on me or whatever, they'll always oh no, there's homeless. Yeah, there's homeless. But according to the census, which is an objective measurement, right? I don't do the census. The census is done by the Homeless Trust. I don't control the census. We have reached the lowest level in 11 years. 546 unsheltered homeless in our city. In the cities that you describe, LA, New York, Austin, San Francisco, Seattle, tens of thousands of homeless. Not hundreds, tens of thousands, okay?
Yeah.
And we're talking about 546. So one of the things I did was I raised money specifically for an organization called Hermanos de la Calle. And it's a faith-based organization that finds ways to rent homes in the community and give the same wraparound services that the Homeless Trust gives in shelters and through their Housing First model. So we've given money for them to buy and acquire properties that they can use for housing. We've supported new organizations that are coming online, which hopefully the mental health facility that is being done by Judge Leifman will come online soon. And then we've worked with Hermanos de la Calle. I've raised them $2 million in the last 2 years. And that's what's created this incredible outcome. I want to be the first major American city to have zero homeless. I think we can get there. If we're at 546 unsheltered, I think we can get to zero.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to
awesome.
talk about how, because this is new to me. This is something I learned today. You were very successful before running for mayor. So when you were in your 30s and you were already successful, what changed for you? Like when it comes to putting your life under a microscope, when you didn't have to do that for the city, you could have just.
I really appreciate the question, and I was actually thinking about it today, ironically, because we have to do something interesting. Every year we have to disclose our wealth, basically, our net worth, right? And obviously over time my net worth has gone up, and it's gone up significantly. And I've been criticized for it. But I think what people don't understand is a few things. Number one is I started in a public office when I was 32 years old. Okay, I am now almost 48. So it is 16 years. It's essentially almost all of my adult and professional life. So if I'm ever gonna acquire wealth, you acquire it in that time frame, right? Like when you're getting older. You know, I'm also, you know, someone who's a professional, right? Like I'm a lawyer. I graduated in the top of my class at a very good law school. I work for a very prestigious law firm. I do consulting, and I do a variety of other things for a lot of different companies. And it's something I'm proud of, right? And I disclose it, and I have absolutely, you know, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm very proud of the work that I've done, the portfolio of things that I do, and the value that I create to help people build value for themselves and their companies. You know, I understand sometimes, I guess people don't like it or whatever, and they have every right to feel the way they want to feel about it. You know, my view on it is I do everything honorably and ethically, number one. And number two, you know, I have a responsibility to my family, to provide for my family. And number three, it goes to some of the questions that you're asking, you know, like I'm passionate about what I do. What I get involved in, the projects that I get involved in are things that I'm passionate about. I'm not just trying to do it to make money. You know what I mean? The money is oftentimes a byproduct of the passion that you have to do something, right? So the things I get involved in are things that I enjoy. And so because I enjoy them, I'm okay with working hard to achieve things on their behalf, on the company's behalf, my law firm's behalf. And I've been very blessed. I mean, the law firm that I work for is one of the top 20 law firms in the world in terms of revenue, right? It's a law firm that has offices in 13 countries, right? With 30 offices and 1,200 lawyers. And so this is a massive organization. Yeah. And so it's really an honor to be able to achieve that, to work at a firm of that level of prestige. And I mean, you know, their work speaks for themselves, right? But you know, I think again, when I finish my time as mayor, I'm going to continue to work in the private sector, continue to grind, continue to hustle, continue to provide for my family, and I'm probably going to do significantly better, because I think, you know, there are a percentage of people that say, you know, I don't want to work with somebody who's in the public sector because I don't want to come out in the newspaper, right? And I'm very transparent with people. If you work with me, you're going to come out in the newspaper. You know what I mean? Like, because I have to file my reports, and I'm going to put you on the report if you're required to be on the report, and if that means you're on the report, you're going to have to answer questions about it, and it is what it is, you know? So that's just part of being in public office, and the scrutiny that you go through, you know, the doubt that people have, the nonsense. But then, you know, obviously, if you don't get someone that's good, you're also going to be complaining about that person too. For sure. And that's why I respect it so much, because since you had success before running, again, you didn't need to. You didn't have to do this for us. You didn't have to do this for yourself. You did it because you wanted to, and it's because, like you said, you're passionate about it. Let's put it this way. I didn't do it for the money. You know what I mean? Like I got paid a year and a half. Actually, this is an interesting story. Everywhere I go, people always ask me about this. I got paid in Bitcoin for a year and a half. Wow. And so, you know, when we talk about crypto,
sorry, you said your salary was Bitcoin?
Yeah, I got paid my salary in Bitcoin for a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, and at cost average of $30,000. Now it's 120. So I got paid 4 times my salary for a year and a half, just because every time I got paid, it would convert to Bitcoin for a year and a half. So, you know, I like to think that I'm a smart guy. You know what I mean? I'm not saying everything I do always works out. Certainly, you know, you take risks, and not every risk succeeds. If every risk succeeded, then, you know, not even Warren Buffett, you know, has every single, you know, investment or idea succeeded, right? That's just not the way but you have to learn from your failures. I mean, I failed, you know, on a multitude of different initiatives and projects and stuff. and you learn from that. You learn not to make some of the mistakes that you made that led to something not going the way you wanted it to go.
And with that being said, like following your passion going into public service, at any point did you like kind of like regret it or think like, man, I didn't think it'd be this challenging, or like having everyone look at what I do and all of this and that? Like,
yeah, look, I mean, there's, I would say, been many more good days than bad days. I would be lying if I told you there were no bad days, but I'm also a fundamentally positive person. I think to succeed and to run an organization of the size that we have and a city, because I don't just consider myself the chief executive officer, I consider myself the chief ecosystem officer. So wherever I go, I have to bring the energy, right? Like I can't just, it's not just about running the organization, it's about setting the standard, setting the example, knowing what the goals are, expressing the goals, leading. And also then when you're in your city, you know, you're gonna run into people, you're gonna impact people. So you can impact them in a variety of different ways. And if you're not in your A game, you're not gonna have that positive impact that you wanna have. So I think without a doubt, there are days when you know, question whether or not this is the right thing for you, right. You know. And like I said, it's a tough business. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it's not a tough business. You get criticized often unfairly. A lot of times it's interesting. This happens all the time with candidates who are running for office. Or there were activists before and then they're candidates. And I always say, listen, when you were on that side of the ledger, or on that side of the dais, right? Like on the public side of the dais, it's very easy to criticize public officials. By the way, you choose us. So in effect, in some ways you're criticizing yourself because you're the one that put us here. But the second part of it is, once you get on this side, now all of a sudden everyone questions your motives.
Yeah.
So I've had multiple elected officials that are young that used to question the motives of elected officials, and then they become elected officials and everyone questions their motives and calls them corrupt, calls them X or Y or Z and all the things that they thought they were fighting against before they were a public official. So it's just the nature of the business, and it's one of the toughest things to have to accept, that no matter how much good faith you bring to the job, there are people that are not going to trust you, partly because they don't trust the system, and there are other people who are being paid and who have whether they're being paid or not, have a purpose, which is to create distrust in the system. They feed off of the distrust, yeah. And the distrust is their currency, right? That's their currency. So it's sad because when you're a guy that's working hard, that cares deeply, and that knows you're doing the best that you can, and you're coming up against that, it's like swimming upstream, against people that want to rebrand you, reclassify you, whatever, and it gets exhausting sometimes, for sure.
For sure, I can imagine. But
it's like being in a fight.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Sometimes,
Well, you're someone that definitely embraces the challenge.
I do.
And even through everything that you go through, you still are someone that wants to do better, not only for the city, but for America. Like, you even ran for president at one point. So talk to us about that. Like, what were you thinking and why did you make that decision?
A lot of people ask me what I was thinking.
I mean, like I said,
I know what you mean.
Embrace the challenge.
No, listen, I think what I was thinking was, I had a thesis. I had like a plan, right? And I think, to your point, you have to have passion.
Yeah.
And I love that in your questions, you always talk about passion, because I think passion is the driver. Right? It's what gives you the energy, the focus. Then you got to have a plan. Because if you just have passion and you don't have a plan, you're going to be all over the place, right? So my thesis was that the next Republican president, this turned out to be true, by the way, would be someone who could attract Hispanics, young voters, and urban voters. We're an urban city, right? Trump, who got elected, did all three. And I'll give you an example. He did much better with Hispanics than he had done against Biden. He did much better with young voters, and I think he lost to Biden by 26 points. And in urban areas like Philadelphia, I'll give you as an example, he had lost Philadelphia to Biden 85-15, right? 85% he lost. And he lost to Kamala 75-25. Now you think to yourself, well, he still lost by 75%. But you're not seeing how that 10% differential impacts the total of Pennsylvania. Right?
Yeah.
Because what happens is, to win in a state, you got sometimes the rural areas competing with the urban areas, that think differently and vote differently. So if you diminish the stronghold, the area that's supposed to carry you, that makes it harder for them to beat you in the rest of the state. So that 10% difference is extremely meaningful in a state like Pennsylvania to win the presidency.
Yeah.
So the thesis turned out to be right. I just turned out not to be the right person to, and that's what the political process is about. The political process is about people judging who the right person is, putting them through the grinder, the meat grinder, the competitive process.
There's going to be a bigger microscope under you once you run for president. So.
Yeah, and there was. Listen, I got attacked viciously when I ran for president. It's the most vicious attack I've ever endured in my life. They tried to destroy me, basically. And I was probably naive to that, to be honest. I didn't go in really thinking that my own newspaper, practically, from my own city, would try to do that. I actually naively, kind of stupidly, frankly, thought, oh, my paper is going to tell the stories that nobody else has told. Like, they're going to tell the good stories, right?
I would think so too.
Right, they're going to tell the story of me running in that 5K because I never had any media, right? They're going to tell the story.
Like they should be the ones backing you up.
Of me raising money for the Manos de la Calle, right? Yeah. They didn't tell any of those stories. Instead, they tried to destroy me. They tried to whatever. And look, it is what it is. It's life. You got to deal with it, right? You don't know always where adversity is going to come from. You know adversity is going to come, no doubt. And I think you've got to have a spiritual base. That's my personal opinion. I'm not trying to preach, but that's my personal opinion. Family's important. Friends are important. So, it's family, friends, and faith, right? The 3 F's. And finances, right? Like, if you have a good financial situation, you have more liberty to do things than if you're in a struggling situation. So I do think that those pillars are important to be able to do something that's significant. I learned a lot from the process. And who knows? You never know what life.
Well, I was going to say, a big respect to you for even trying.
Yeah, thanks.
And again, embracing the challenge.
Of course.
And it may have just not been the right timing, but you're still willing to do what you have to do. So
politics is all about timing.
Do you think there'd be a chance of you running again?
I'm going to answer that question maybe in a different way than you would expect. I work with somebody who's a mindset guy, like a mindset coach. His name is Louis Arahu. A little shout out to Louis. Really great guy, Colombian guy. And one of the things, the exercises that we do is he tells me, look back 5 years. So I'll tell you to do the same thing in your life. Look back 5 years. And if you look back 5 years, the question is, did you expect to be here in 5 years? And usually the answer is no, right?
I would have never thought I'd be sitting in front of the mayor having
there you
this
go.
conversation. So.
Exactly. So the things that I've accomplished in those 5 years, if God himself or herself would have come to me and said, hey, I'm a genie now. I'm gonna let you tell me the way the next 5 years of your life is gonna turn out. I could not have envisioned something as good as what actually happened. Why do I say all that? Because the answer to your question is, I don't know what the next 5 years are gonna be, but my hope and prayer is they're as good as the last 5 years. And if they are, who knows, right? Like I'm way beyond, and to your point of asking the question and giving me the kudos for actually trying, I would have never told you 5 years ago, I'm gonna run for president of the United States. Yeah. No way. No way. In August of 2020, after the pandemic, if you would have told me, hey, within this time frame, you're gonna run for president of the United States, I'm gonna say, what are you talking about? Yeah. How's that possible? So I became president of the US Conference of Mayors, you know what I mean? I met world leaders throughout the world. I did certain things that gave me the confidence in addition to the thesis, and that I could offer something different to actually try it, right? And so I would never have thought that was possible.
Yeah, and I also want to talk about how there was some talk about potentially the election going over an extra year. Yeah. And what ended up happening with that, if you want to just share your thoughts.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of, again, this is one of those issues that there's been a ton of misinformation about, and it's really sad to me. This was an initiative of one of our commissioners, and the initiative itself, or the idea, let's start with the idea. The idea is it better to have elections in odd number of years or an even number of years? What's the difference? The difference is, in even number years, a lot more people vote because it's piggybacking off a presidential election or a governor's race. What's the difference in that? Well, in an odd number year, you're talking about like 15% of the people will vote that are registered voters. In an even number year, you're talking about 60, 70, 80%. So it's a massive difference. So that's obviously good.
Yeah, I feel like more people are paying attention.
More people than less.
Yeah.
The second reason is it saves approximately $1 million every other year, forever. Wow. So what's the value of saving $1 million every other year forever? It's a lot of money, right? Yeah. It's tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. It's for infinity, so it's forever. So nobody doubts that it's a good policy, right? There was a third reason, which is we were trying to stagger the election with another reform that would have prevented someone like me, and it's not, I don't have anything against myself, but the current rules are, under the current rules, if they don't change, I could serve as mayor 32 out of the next 48 years. Okay, I don't think that's good. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's good. Right. The way the rules are is I could take a 4-year off, be mayor for 8 years, take 4 years off, 8 years. And if you do the math, that's 32 out of the next 48 years I could be the mayor. Mm-hmm. So this staggering of that year was gonna allow us to potentially put in that other reform that prevented people from being mayor or commissioner forever, for a large percentage of their lifetime, and having people that keep coming back. You know, we criticize the same names, the same last names of people that keep coming back for, you know, we have a guy that that's talking about running for mayor that was a commissioner when he was 29 years old in 1979. Mm-hmm. You know, is that good for Miami? I don't know. You know what I mean? If that's good for Miami or not. But this is an opportunity for Miamians to speak out on this issue. And it was important to stagger the elections because it would have had an impact on who could run and who could not run. So that was the third reason. It got controversial because of the method by which we did it. And the method which we did it was the method that we believed to be the proper method, right? So we're not the first city to do it. We're the fourth city to do it. Every single city before us had done it through an ordinance. In other words, through a law that they passed. That is a law that you pass in the council. So every single commission meeting, every single council meeting, sorry for the long answer, but this is like, you gotta explain this.
This is very necessary.
Right.
I feel like everyone needs to hear this.
Yeah, like every single commission meeting, you pass ordinances, you pass laws. Every so often, you have to put something on what's called the charter, which is the Constitution that requires a vote. But if we were to put every single law on the Constitution, when you would go to vote in November, you'd have to vote for 60, 70, 100 things. That doesn't make sense. What's the point of having an elected official if they don't make any decisions? Right. If everything you punt to the ballot, you're gonna have a 20-page ballot and you're gonna sit there. You know, you're like, why am I hiring you? Why am I paying you? So we used the vehicle that was authorized by state statute and had been done by several cities. It was even challenged by one of the cities, legally challenged. And the court in that case upheld the city's right to do it. And the appellate court in that case ratified the city's right to do it. So we felt this is the way to do it. Like, this is the normal way to do it. It got very political, as a lot of these things do. Yeah. You had external actors getting involved. You had the candidates who themselves maybe didn't want to run next year because maybe they didn't think a higher participation election favored them, right? Where actually more people vote, a more democratic process. So they sued us. And it got very political. And I think, unfortunately, so far, the appellate courts have done the opposite of what they did in the other case and are now, doing that. So right now, as of right now, the election is in November. We may at some point, depending on how the court rules, my hope is that the court will do the right thing, follow the state statute, follow their precedent, and determine that what we did was appropriate and the proper way of doing it, so that we can continue along this process. But if that doesn't happen for some reason, I'm happy to put it on the ballot. I have absolutely no qualms about doing it that way. It's just the way we did it was more efficient, and the way that we thought it was the proper way to do it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's going to save the city a ton of money. Yeah. It's going to increase participation. I think 28 of the 34 cities are on an even year cycle. So we're one of the few that's not. Coral Gables had just done it a few months before us. Nobody criticized them. Nobody gave them a hard time. Nobody even noticed. Right. Other than the people that were doing it in Coral Gables. So it's sad that these things get political, and for whatever reason, someone who doesn't like us decides they want to chime in.
But that's
It's-
why
it's politics.
That's why it's important to talk about it.
No, I thank you for the platform and the time, because it takes time to really explain it. You know, again, we live in a soundbite world. We live in a TikTok world. We live in a, you know, social media world where you put a flashy little video and you call somebody a dictator, or you say that somebody, you know, wants to just preserve their life. I was actually foreclosing on myself the ability to be mayor for 32 of the next 48 years of my life. I vetoed a pension that would have given me $6 million for the rest of my life. Nobody even talks about that. It's like, dude, if there's anybody that's sacrificed their future in terms of their family, and it's me. But, you know, very
And
few.
you've done a great job these 8 years. So it's not like we're messing with someone that hasn't done a great job and still wants to stay in office. It's like we're dealing with someone that's been doing great things, and 1 extra year, because of everything that you just explained, it can make sense.
And by the way, anytime you do it, somebody's going to get an extra year. Whenever you change from an odd year to an even year, that's an inevitable mathematical consequence of changing from one. It's just somebody has to get it.
Yeah.
You may not like the person that gets it. You could put it out into the future and some anonymous person, but it will be eventually a real person, and you may not like that person that year, right? So it's not about the person. It's about the policy itself, which is a good policy.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about just people in this city, like people that are following their passion, that are going after what they love. What advice would you give to people like that? Let's say they just graduated high school or graduated college. What do you think is important for them to be focused on right now?
I'm a really firm believer that you can only achieve your maximum level of success if you do what you're passionate about. I don't care what that is. There are examples of people making money doing all kinds of stuff, as long as you're passionate. If you're passionate, you're going to go all in. Once you go all in, you know, you're gonna find the pathway to make money. There's a guy that makes this Super Mario. He's passionate about this. Yeah. He's making money doing that. If I would have told you, hey, I'm gonna dedicate my life to making Super Marios with money signs, you know, and things like that, you wouldn't. There's a guy who was passionate about making skateboards. If you see back behind us, you have all these 1980 skateboards, right? The first time that he went to his parents and said, hey, I wanna make skateboards for a living, the parents were probably like, what are you doing, right? But Tony Hawk, right, who was a skater, I'm looking at a Tony Hawk skateboard, who was a skater, Hosoi, who was a skater. I mean, these guys are multi-millionaires, right? Multi-millionaires. The first time they went to their parents and said, hey, I want to dedicate my life to skating, I'm sure their parents were like, what are you talking about? Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm looking at an Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator poster here, right? The first time he said, I want to be a bodybuilder for a living, I want to dedicate myself to building my body. You know, I'm sure their parents, who were, I think, Austrian, were probably like, what are you talking about? I mean, what is that? He became Mr. Olympia, what, 8 times, 7 times? I don't know. And then he became the best in his craft, right? As a bodybuilder. And then he goes, I'm gonna be an actor. He becomes the best of his craft as an actor and highest grossing actor. And then he says, you know what? I wanna be a politician. I wanna be in politics. And he becomes a governor of the largest state in America, right? Like talk about a guy who has demonstrated being passionate and letting passion drive your decision making. So I think you're on the right track when you talk about, you know, hustle. Hustle is a byproduct of passion.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like money goes where energy flows.
100%. I love that statement. I'm gonna start using that.
Yeah, no, it's
money goes where energy flows. I like that. We gotta write that one down.
Yeah, that's really how it is. I believe that if you are passionate about something and you do what you love, then you don't have to worry about the money as much, because it'll find you. If you're constantly looking for money and you're doing things that you might not necessarily love, but you're looking for that money, it'll be a harder road for you.
Trust me, I'm a lawyer, and a lot of people go to law school and they're not happy. You know what I mean? Because they think that's what the parents want them to do, or that's what society wants them to do, or that's a career path. You know, and I think, again, this is a cliche. You said something similar to it. You know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But there's a truth to that, right? If you love what you do, you're not really working. You're actually focusing on doing what you love. Yeah. So it's not even work.
Yeah. And to us, what the Miami Hustle is about is basically that. It's following your passion, because we all need to have a job to pay the bills, because unfortunately, at first, your passion is not going to pay the bills. So you need to have a job to pay the bills, but it's what you do once you're clocked out that is the hustle.
And I'll say this in fairness, and I can say this with all sincerity. When you're younger, you know, and by the way, there's some people that do it from a young age, and some of the most successful people in the world, follow their passion at a young age, take enormous risks.
Yeah.
And because of that, time is on their side and they build products that change the world or become, multimillionaires or billionaires in one generation. And that happens in America. It's the only country, probably one of the few countries in the world where you can do that. But there's also, in my opinion, nothing wrong with, paying your dues and working in jobs that maybe are not the jobs of your career, but give you value or give you work ethic, or like waiting tables, or I was a bank teller.
I actually took care of you one time at Hillstone. I used to bartend there.
Well, there you go.
And I was a server as well, so I took care of you there.
Well, there you go.
I don't even know that.
I hope I was nice and I always try.
Oh, you were.
Good. I try to always listen.
You're
My philosophy is you treat everyone with kindness and respect, and that karmatically flows back to you. You know what I mean? Like I really, really believe that. And I try to do it politically. It's hard because you have to deal with such like scummy people sometimes, right? It's hard to like treat somebody who's scummy and who's disrespecting you with kindness and respect. I try to do it even despite that. Sometimes you gotta throw some blows, Unfortunately, you gotta fight back because otherwise they mistaken kindness for weakness. And that's a sad reality in the world that we live in. But it is.
Yeah, and also when you are going after what you love, a lot of times it's a tough road, and a lot of times a lot of people don't really believe in you or see the same vision that you have. So I want to ask you, for the people that are listening, any advice that you would have when things are getting tough and you just kind of feel like alone and you don't know what to do?
I think that there's a great poem that I always recommend people to read. It's called If by Rudyard Kipling. And it's a father talking to his son and basically laying out the qualities of what he thinks it takes to be a man, right? And it's a very beautiful poem. But one of the lines, it has many incredible lines, but one of the lines is to treat success and failure as the same imposters. And what I think he means by that is don't get too high, don't get too low when you succeed or when you fail. Failure is the best tool for learning. I was just listening to a Tom Brady speech or podcast where he talks about that. Failure is the best tool for learning. So when you fail, it sucks, it hurts, but that pain, if you use it right, if you channel it, if you use it to focus on how you avoid that mistake again, can be the best teacher. But by the same token, success, I always say you're at your weakest when you're your most successful. And people say, well, how's that possible? If you're most successful, how can you be at your weakest? I said, because that's when there's the most jealousy. That's when there's the most hate. You think everybody's on your team. They're not. They're trying to find a way to knock you down. And so when you fail, oftentimes people want to help you. They're like, man, the poor guy, I feel bad for him. He just got his butt kicked. Let me help him up.
Yeah.
When you succeed, everyone's like, oh, that guy again, man. How annoying. Look at him. This, that, the other, whatever it is, man, I wish he would just go away, or man, or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's like, so the poem talks about both those conditions being imposters, right? And I think it's meant to say, hey, have an attitude. My attitude is I try to have energy. I work on my energy a lot. Sleep, working out, my diet. That controls my energy. Be around people that have good energy. Be in places that have good energy. Yeah. That's why, like, if you come to my office, like, I hope you think the lighting, like, even that you could tell you could tell people who focus on creating an energetic environment. And that energetic environment influences people and influences your mood. How many times have you gone into a place that's dark and dingy and you're like, ugh, you just get tired, like, just being there. Yeah. And then you're in a place with the right energy and you feel energized, right? So we try to do that in City Hall. And then, like I said, I do feel very much about treating people with respect and kindness. I think that's a big deal. I always remember, this is a great movie that is appropriate to talk about here because it's about a bouncer, Roadhouse. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. Not the new one, the old one. There may have been one before that, but the one with Patrick Swayze. And he talks about, he takes over the bar as the head bouncer, or the cooler, or whatever it's called. And he says there's 3 simple rules. But the last rule is to be nice. And he says, you be nice until it's time to not be nice. you know, but you exaggerate on the be nice part, right? Like even, and he goes through scenarios. Well, what happens if this happens? He goes, be nice. And what happens if this happens? He goes, be nice.
Yeah.
You're gonna be nice until I tell you to not be nice, right? And so it's almost an exaggerated thing, but I think there's a huge benefit in being nice and treating people kindly. Even when they're, I mean, biblically, Jesus will tell you, you know, when someone slaps you on the face, turn and offer them the other cheek. I mean, that's one of the hardest things I think in life to accept, right? Biblically and certainly politically, it's hard to accept.
Yeah, but I believe in karma, so karma's real, so that goes a long way.
I agree with that.
And one thing we always like to ask our guests is, this is your first time on the show, hopefully you come back a couple months or a year later. We like to always follow up with them and support them any way that we can.
Cool.
So we want to know what you have going on next and what we should be looking forward to when it comes to
so depending on how the court rules will determine when my last day is and whether there's a runoff. That'll also influence the last day. I'm excited about whatever God puts in front of me. You know, I've learned that you cannot predict the future. You can only control your effort, your energy level, your focus, what you're going to work on. There's a lot of opportunities, and a lot of people are expressing opportunities to want to work with me after I'm mayor. So that's exciting to me because that gives me purpose and meaning. And but I want to be part of the community. I want to continue to do stuff, work in the realm of homelessness. Hopefully, I'll have an opportunity to do that. There are charities, and right here in Little Haiti is a great place. There's a Little Haiti FC, the soccer team, which is a championship level soccer team with kids in this area that been traditionally an impoverished area. I want to stay connected to that program. I've been raising money for that program for many, many years. Luther Campbell at Hadley has the Liberty City Warriors. That's a program I want to stay connected to. You have in Overtown the Optimists football program. These are programs that I've, given money to. LaSalle, my high school, I've been funding scholarships there for many, many years. I want to stay connected to them. So there's just a lot of things that I'm involved in that I want to stay connected to. I love the city. I plan on living in this city my whole life, unless something happens that I can't predict.
Speaking of the city, have you thought about running for mayor of Miami-Dade County or possibly the governor of Florida one day?
Governor is in 28. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, governor's in 26, right? Dade County's in 28.
Yes.
In 26, you have the president, Trump, who has already endorsed a Republican candidate, Byron Donalds. And so I don't think there's an opportunity there because I think, the president's already weighed in and he's the leader of the party, and I don't see anybody being able to beat Byron in a primary. For county, it depends. It really depends. I'm going to be out of office. I'm going to be back in the private sector. Being the county mayor, which is a full-time job, a strong mayor, I'm not sure that you can earn outside income. As the city mayor, I'm able to. So that's something that has been a benefit for me, for my family. So I would look at it for sure. I would look at it as a possibility. I do think that there are things that I want to see get better in the county. And maybe part of my post-mayoral career, I never want to be a critic. I don't want to be like these guys that I dislike. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be a hater. And it's so easy. It's so easy to criticize, dude. Like, it's so easy to be out there just spewing hate. I want to be more constructive. I want to offer solutions. I want to work with people and help people and use my skill set to solve problems. That's why I ran for office in the first place.
Yeah, that's why I think it'd be great.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah. And then the last question I have for all of my guests is, what does Miami mean to you?
Everything. It's my home. It's where I was born. It's where I grew up. I grew up playing basketball on city parks, went to high school here, first mayor born here. I spent I want people to understand this, 50% of my life in City Hall.
Wow.
Where did I come up with that number? I'm 47. I'm going to be 48 in October, okay? 48. I did 16 years, 8 as a commissioner, 8 as a mayor, and 8 years my dad was a mayor. So you add 8 to 16, that's 24. 24 times 2 is 48. I'm 47. So slightly more than half my life I've been in City Hall. And I don't see a separation between me and my city in terms of my soul. Again, there are some people that don't like that. I don't really care, to be honest, at this point. I've lived enough of a life, I'm close to 50, where you cannot wake up and live your life based on what a blogger says about you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or what some anonymous person in social media says about you, that you don't even know if they're a real person or not,
Yeah.
or whether it's a troll farm, you know? I think the people who know me and the people of my city know how much I care. They see me, they see the intensity, the energy that I bring to the job. Hopefully I greet them with, again, a kind and happy disposition. And I follow up when they bring things to my attention. And I hope that they, over time, will realize that they had somebody who really, really loved the job, really loved them, and really loved the city.
Yeah, for sure. And again, thank you for your time. This has
Welcome,
been an
bro.
honor, and I
been
couldn't
fun for me.
think of any other more perfect guest than Mayor Francis Suarez. Like you
100th
just said.
episode, big deal.
100th episode, yeah. And you
Nice.
have been involved in Miami your whole life, and then 50% of it has been pretty much in and around office. So
Yeah.
doing things for the community, doing things for us, the people. Clearly you're a man of the people. You have taken time to just sit here and talk to me about your experiences and Miami and what it means to you. So again, I couldn't be any more honored to have this episode with you, especially it being the 100th episode of the Miami Hustle podcast.
It's my honor as well.
Thank you again.
Take care,
Really
bro.
appreciate it. Until next time.